Have you ever noticed how certain numbers or maybe phrases just catch on? They get repeated everywhere in public discourse, and they start to sound, well, simple, like an accepted fact.
Hmm.
But what if that simplicity is, hiding a whole lot of complexity? Ever wonder what's really behind a number you hear all the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
So today on the deep dive, that's our mission. We want to pull back the curtain on one of those figures. It's a big one, especially in a really debated topic like immigration.
Right.
We're talking about the 11 million undocumented immigrants. You've definitely heard that number, haven't you?
Oh, for sure. It's everywhere.
We're going to explore why digging into the specifics of this group, while it isn't just important for policy talk, it's actually crucial if you really want to be informed.
That's exactly right. And our source material today is really illuminating. It's from a hearing, a specific exchange, where let's say the nature of this 11 million number gets fiercely debated. We're going to unpack the arguments, what was actually said, and maybe more importantly, figure out why getting into these details, instead of just sticking with that one big number, really changes how we understand the whole issue.
How policy gets made, even.
And public perception, too. Absolutely. It matters a lot.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So our deep dive today centers on an audio excerpt, and it features Trey Gowdy. He's not just, talking about immigration, he's fundamentally challenging the whole idea of simplifying such a diverse group into one single number, a monolithic block.
Yeah, quite a direct challenge.
It really is fascinating how that term, 11 million, has become this kind of shorthand, hasn't it? It's so often used like it's just one group, all the same. Feels like the standard talking point.
And that's exactly where Gowdy jumps in almost right away. He says quite clearly, look, it's not a homogeneous group.
Right.
And he actually uses the word disingenuous to describe persisting with 11 million as just a, quote, talking point.
Wow, disingenuous. Strong word.
Yeah. And he makes two key arguments right off the bat. First, not all of those 11 million even want to be citizens. And second, critically, not all of them could pass a background check if one were part of the process.
That pushback right at the start feels really significant. If he's right, if it's not the single block, then what does that mean for policy? Are we oversimplifying solutions by using that number?
Yeah.
Does it stop us from taking a more, targeted approach?
Absolutely. That's the core of his point. Because if you accept his premise that it's not one group, then the whole conversation has to shift, right? You move away from these broad strokes and you have to get into the critical details. And that's where Gowdy pivots next. He goes straight to those specifics.
Like what?
Like what would a background check actually involve? And based on that, who should maybe be considered for a path to citizenship versus, say, who should maybe only be considered for deportation.
Okay. So that distinction he's drawing between the sort of unified mass and like a mosaic of different individuals, that really comes alive when he starts talking about the details of a background check. It stops being just a concept.
Exactly. It gets very concrete. He starts asking direct questions about specific types of convictions as potential disqualifiers.
Okay.
And he uses a really powerful example, a domestic violence conviction. He pushes for a clear answer should someone with that kind of history be on a path to citizenship.
And he makes it personal, too, doesn't he? He mentions his own background.
He does. He says, look, I spent 16 years prosecuting people for domestic violence. And for him, personally, that's a definite disqualifier.
Even if it's a misdemeanor in most places.
Right. He points that out, too, which underlines his whole argument that, the devil is in the details when you're talking policy like this. It's not just about the legal label.
And how did the witness respond, Ms. Plasquez?
Well, Ms. Velasquez, who was a witness there, she initially advocates more generally, for a pathway for the majority of the 11 million, a broader approach. But when Gowdy presses her on these really specific background check criteria, like the domestic violence example, she kind of defers. She says something like, well, that's up to you all to decide, and that she's in no position to tell you who deserves what.
So that really shows the gap, doesn't it, between wanting a certain outcome broadly and then figuring out the messy details of how to actually make it happen.
Precisely. It highlights that tension perfectly.
So, okay, zooming out a bit, Gowdy's basically calling for a more, what did he call it, an honest response.
Yes, that was his phrase.
Instead of just lumping everyone into this 11 million category, he wants to talk about different subgroups and apply different levels of scrutiny.
Exactly. It's a call for precision in a debate, often filled with generalizations.
And did he give examples of these subgroups?
He did. He laid out a pretty clear framework. For example, he said, children who were brought here clearly with no criminal intent themselves. That's one level of scrutiny.
Makes sense.
But the parents who brought them who could form criminal intent, that's another level.
Okay.
Then people with, say, misdemeanor convictions, that's one level. But people with multiple misdemeanor convictions, that needs a different level of scrutiny.
Right, distinguishing between maybe one mistake and a pattern.
Exactly. And then finally, he mentioned those with felony convictions that would be yet another, quite distinct level of scrutiny.
So what he's really outlining here, it's more than just an immigration idea, isn't it? It feels like a way to approach any complex issue where we use these big aggregate numbers.
I think so.
He's forcing the question. Where else are we kind of hiding from the difficult individual realities behind a single statistic?
Mm-hmm. And he suggests that if you actually focus on the individual circumstances, defining a bright line, his words again, about who qualifies for what, well, it isn't actually that hard.
It allows for a more tailored approach, maybe a more just one even.
Potentially, yes.
Right.
That seems to be his argument.
Now, how did this part of the exchange wrap up? Did Gowdy acknowledge the witness's perspective at all?
He did, actually. In his closing remarks for that section, he was quite careful to praise the witnesses, including Ms. Velasquez. He called them very good, persuasive witnesses.
Uh-huh.
He acknowledged they were there in good faith, that they had contributed to the debate, and he specifically said these are complex issues where reasonable minds can perhaps differ.
So a tone of sort of respectful disagreement within the hearing itself?
Yes, definitely for the people in the room with him.
But then there's a shift, right? He contrasts that approach.
Oh, yeah, a very sharp contrast.
Mm-hmm.
He brings up someone else entirely, someone named Jan Pfeiffer, who he notes apparently works for the president.
And his tone changes.
Dramatically. He labels Pfeiffer a demagogic, self-serving political hack.
Whoa. Okay, so why the strong language there? What did Pfeiffer do or say?
Gowdy points to two specific things. First, a tweet from Pfeiffer that summarized the whole complex debate they were just having as simply, "Our plan is to allow some kids to stay but deport their parents."
Boiling it down to a very stark, maybe overly simple line.
Exactly. Gowdy saw that as a gross oversimplification. And second, Gowdy reminded everyone that Pfeiffer had apparently at some point previously said something like, "The law is irrelevant."
So Gowdy's using Pfeiffer as an example of the opposite approach, taking complex details and making them into maybe inflammatory sound bites.
That seems to be exactly it. He's highlighting his frustration with what he sees as an approach that values political spin over, factual nuance or grappling with the hard details.
And that contrast really does show how the way we talk about these issues can shape everything, doesn't it? The detail, maybe difficult discussion versus the broad, maybe catchy, but potentially misleading statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a stark lesson in how framing impacts public understanding and maybe the political discourse itself.
So let's recap this deep dive then. We started with this huge familiar number, 11 million, and we've seen how digging into it reveals this vast landscape of individual stories, complex legal questions, ethical considerations. It's not simple at all.
Not at all.
Focusing on the specifics, things like what exactly goes into a background check, or thinking about different levels of scrutiny for different groups. It completely changes the conversation, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think this deep dive just underscores how important it is to, move beyond those big, easy generalizations if we want to truly grasp these major societal issues.
Yeah.
It could encourage you, the listener, to always ask for more than just the headline number when you hear about complex debates. Because the real understanding, the path forward, it often lies in those crucial, sometimes messy details.
That's a great point. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other terms or big numbers are out there in public discussions that might be hiding similar complexities, similar diverse individual situations behind a single label? And how does recognizing the nuance, how does that empower you to think more critically about the information you see every day? To look past the easy headlines and find the real substance underneath?